Join me as I dive into the wild world of 90s trends and see if I can spot which ones are now totally taboo. Societal norms have a way of changing over time, and the 90s are a perfect example of this. What was once considered cool, trendy, and acceptable is now often viewed as outdated, inappropriate, or even straight-up offensive. And that got me thinking. What 90s trends are now considered taboo? It's hard to reconcile our past selves with the values we hold today, especially when it comes to the trends we once thought were harmless, but are now seen as problematic. Take fashion, for instance. What was considered stylish back then is now often cringe-worthy. Or think about the language we used. Certain words and phrases that were common back then are now considered offensive or insensitive. It's a fascinating exercise in self-reflection to look back and think, wow, what were we thinking? We often romanticize the past, but the reality is that many of our past actions and attitudes were rooted in ignorance, privilege, or just plain obliviousness. It's only by examining our past mistakes that we can learn and grow from them. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. Take a critical look at the 90s trends that have become taboo, and explore what we can learn from them. It's also important to acknowledge that our past mistakes can have real-world consequences even if we didn't intend for them to. By examining these trends, we can gain a better understanding of how our actions impact others, and how we can do better moving forward. So let's dive in and see which 90s trends are now considered totally taboo. In the 90s, the fashion trend of hypercolor t-shirts was all the rage. Remember those tacky tees that changed color with the touch of your hand? Yeah, those were a thing. But looking back, it's clear that this trend was not only aesthetically questionable but also pretty environmentally unfriendly. Or how about the endless hours we spent perfecting our frosted tips, a la Justin Timberlake? That haircut is now synonymous with cringe. The 90s slang was also riddled with problematic terms. Talk to the hand and as if might have been fun to say back then, but now they're just annoying relics of the past. And don't even get me started on the attitudes towards diversity and inclusion. It's shocking to think about how marginalized groups were often reduced to stereotypes, or worse, completely erased from mainstream media. Letting kids ride without seatbelts. Although we were making our way towards stricter seatbelt enforcement in the 1990s, the laws weren't as forcibly upheld as they are today, especially where kids were concerned. It was still a common occurrence to sight a kid just moseying around the back seat of the car while their parents did 60 on the highway. Wearing fur without backlash. Animal rights used to be a fringe movement, with groups like PETA seen as social outcasts. But with the rise of the internet, more and more people have begun to sympathize with the ethical treatment of animals, leading to most fashion brands eradicating their use of real furs in favor of faux ones. But not in the 1990s. Even celebrity A-listers were seen donning the real thing. Driving without hands-free devices. A practice that is now illegal and will get you pulled over just like running a stoplight or speeding. Talking without a hands-free device was a normal daily thing in the 1990s. Cars with car phones were especially desirable before the ever-present cell phone became more widely available. One trend that really takes the cake, though, is the whole Trix are for kids debacle. Remember those pesky commercials where a grown adult was trying to buy Trix cereal only to be rejected by the cereal mascot? Yeah, that was racist and predatory, and it's amazing we didn't realize it back then. The whole "I'm an adult, and I want sugary cereal" vibe was just a thinly veiled excuse for corporations to prey on vulnerable populations. But one turning point that really stands out to me is the shift in our attitude towards rape culture. In the 90s, shows like Friends and Seinfeld would often make light of sexual harassment, catcalling, and even assault. Looking back, it's clear that these jokes were not only harmful, but also perpetuated a culture that condoned and even encouraged toxic masculinity. It's heartbreaking to think that we used to find this stuff funny. The cultural shift away from these attitudes has been significant, and it's thanks to the tireless efforts of activists, advocates, and allies who have worked to raise awareness and push for change. By acknowledging our past mistakes, we can create a better future for everyone. In conclusion, taking a critical look at the 90s trends that are now taboo is not only entertaining but also essential for our growth as individuals and as a society. We've covered a lot of ground today, from fashion, to language, to attitudes towards diversity and inclusion. Thanks for watching, guys. What are some 90s trends that you think should stay in the past? Let me know in the comments below.